Hi. I want to talk about my fears today, or, well, I don't want to talk about my fears because I'm afraid to talk about my fears because, that exposes me. But I do want to talk about some fears, and I'm not just talking about my fear of women, that has been my whole life on things, but I've got a wife, I've got two sisters, I've got two daughters, and, you know, you, you should really respect women. It should, women are not weak. I mean, sure, you can beat them in weightlifting and everything, but I couldn't imagine anyone I would want on my side any more than those five women there, who are fierce, if it came to protecting their family on things. And I don't understand why in the United States, women are perceived as weak. And I don't know if it's the Puritan thing or not. When I first came over and they're told to be subservient, and I don't get it because it's not that way in the world, and it shouldn't be that way in our country. But our country, we did do it. Imagine, just think voting rights. They didn't. Women didn't receive the right to vote until 1920 in the 19th Amendment. 1920. So 1700s to 1800s, and it wasn't until 1920 that we finally go, oh, they should be allowed to vote. And I know a couple states did it beforehand. I think Wyoming in 1869, but still, that's almost 100 years after the creation of our country that women could not vote. That's not right. That's not right at all. And why were they told they couldn't vote because they don't think they're tough or anything? And I think Barbie, is kind of a indicative. Um, Trying to think how to phrase it. Barbie kind of says why, what we think of women. We go, okay, they should just have their Barbie dolls and be dressing them up and all that. But what women were really doing what girls were doing with Barbies then is creating worlds. They're creating lives. They're creating a home. They were creating things. What were boys doing in the meantime? Well, they were taking their GI Joes and fighting each other. So while women were building things with their Barbies, men were tearing things down with their GI Joes. So who's the one that should be? Which one of those two should be running the country? People that want to build it or people that want to tear it down, and invade, um, Ukraine or take over Greenland or the other crazy stuff. Women. Well, I won't say women don't do that. In the past, there have been some very, very, think of Catherine the Great. She defeated the Ottoman Empire. You've got very others, Joan of Arc, was a great warrior. You had Zenobia, who conquered Egypt and Lebanon. Then you have other great women leaders like Indira Gandhi, Margaret Thatcher. So women can lead. But here in the United States, for some reason, we don't want them to lead. We had a couple chances. We had Clinton, and we just had the vice president. That Harris. That should both of those should have been elected over the person that they lost to, on that, and they lost, I think, because of men being afraid of women being in charge. Men in the United States, men are cowards. They truly are. Um, in many different cases. I would love to see if Michelle Obama would come back and run again, or she never ran before, but I mean, bring the Obamas back on things. But why are we behind, other countries like New Zealand and South Korea and Taiwan, the United Kingdom, Argentina, Bangladesh, Denmark, all these other countries, who have had women be in charge of their country, and the United States, nope, we just don't have the courage to do that, not yet. Um, and then, so I might be afraid of them, but maybe I'm afraid of them for good reason, because they are good, tough, fierce leaders on things, and I think they have real courage, not like what Trump has when he does his fist, stupid fist pump on things. I mean, yeah, I think he's a true coward, and I think when he's afraid of a woman, what he does is he calls her nasty. So whenever you hear Trump say, "Oh, she's nasty," what he's really saying is, "I'm scared of her. Ooh, she scares me. She frightens me because she's got more balls than you do." So anyway, I didn't want this to be all political, so I'm gonna switch away from political, and I'm gonna get into the other things that are making me very afraid right now. Although it's gonna go back into politics because it's gonna have to. Um, Being a paraplegic means I can't do a lot of things I used to be able to do. Obviously, I can't stand, I can't lift anything. Uh, if something happens to Sandy, if she were to fall going down the stairs or out on the ice, I could do nothing, to help her, to pick her up, then call for help. It's the only thing I can do. If she got COVID or something else, I couldn't take care of her, very well, I don't think. I would have to call one of my daughters and ask one of them to come up to help take care of her because I just couldn't do it. If our dog, who's, starting to get older now, he's 7 or 8 now, and if he were to fall, if he needed to be picked up and taken to a vet, I couldn't pick him up. I mean, he's 60 pounds of pit bull, and he would love it if I could pick him up, but I couldn't do it. So when it happens, because it's going to happen because he's getting older, I, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do to help her. I don't know. I think that there's a vet that we can call that can come in a truck, and they do veterinary type things and that. So when we get a little bit closer to his age expiration, if you want to call it that, then I'll find out more about that. But anyway, I've got other things like that I'm afraid of. What if I lose my arms? I had a shoulder surgery before this all happened to me, and they fixed a ligament type thing, and believe it or not, I was in the pool 90 days after having my ligament reattached, and my tendon. I'm sorry, my tendon reattached, and I was back in the pool swimming already. But when I was in at the doctor, he said I'm a candidate for shoulder replacement sometime in the future, and if I lose my arms, I'm effectively a quadriplegic. And I mean, now I can get in and out of bed on my own. I can make food on my own. I can bring groceries in. I can do many, many different things that I can do right now. But if I lose my arms, I'm screwed. And I'm very afraid of that. I'm very afraid. And insurance, like the caregiver that comes to see me for 1 hour uh, every 3 days, she comes over. None of that is paid for by insurance. It's $1,000 out of my pocket every single month on there. Thank you, insurance. I really appreciate it. But I need that assistance, so I have to pay for it. So if my arms go, I'm going to need even more. So I'm scared of that. And then you think about the medical protection. With the current president, Trump being in there. Remember what he did to the Affordable Health Care Act? He tried to quote unquote repeal and replace it. But we just learned recently that he tried repealing it and had no replacement in mind. He had concepts of a plan. That's all he had, but he came within one vote of it actually literally going away. And people don't seem to remember that very much anymore. And in fact, if you they did a poll of Trump's fans, and they asked them, how do you feel about Obamacare? And they all said, oh, we hate it. And then they asked the same ones, how do you feel about the Affordable Health Care Act? They go, oh, we love it. They didn't know that it was the same thing. That just shows you how little they know. And then these people are the ones that put him back in the presidency. And he's going to be a threat to my medical. It's going to be a threat to my Social Security, which I'm not collecting yet. But they're looking at either raising the age on that or lowering the benefits on it. They don't have, they're not going to get rid of it entirely because they know people will shove them out of the office if they do that. But really, you don't need to do either one of those things there because you just raise the cap of $174,000. I've talked about it in the previous videos. You raise the cap, and you make it so that income that's over 174,000 is also taxed for Social Security, and you'll save Social Security forever. You could probably lower the retirement age, and everybody can enjoy their retirement even more. But they don't do that because the rich people own both sides of our government. They own the Democrats and the Republicans, but Republicans, they definitely have them, definitely in hand on that. But so I'm terrified of what's happening both politically and possibly with my own future with things. I I'm, it's not affecting me today, but it could affect me tomorrow or next year or 5 years or whatever. And I want to be able to protect my family. And I'm very limited on what I can do to help them right now. And it kills me to do that. So thank you to Big Farm for doing this to me, and then doing nothing to take care of me. The amounts that I pay for my caregivers come out of my own pocket. It doesn't come from the people who paralyzed me. So that's horrible. They're horrible people. So anyway, I I wanted to talk about this kind of thing here because it's weighing on my mind a lot lately, and thought I would share it with you guys. Even though it's I've always been a person that didn't tell people things like this about myself, but that's something I'm trying to change, and part of that is because my wife made me a stronger person, and I'm more empathetic, and a lot of the things that are better about me now than 30 years ago are because my wife made me better. She made me understand what it took to be a person and somebody who cared about other people and other things. So thank her so much for that. So anyway, I'm going to change the topic for a quick minute, and I'm going to say my new book came in. There you go. Cave Mannerisms, Comedic Stories from the Cave. It's a collection of short stories, and it's actually relevant to what my talk was today, because the cave people growing up, what was the relationship between the male and the female? You had the hunters and the gatherers. So I had a lot of fun with that. Where what if a gatherer didn't want to be a gatherer? What if she wanted to be a hunter? So had a lot of fun with that kind of stuff, and it had some caveman stuff. I'm sorry, not caveman, but dinosaur stuff as well in it. If I would recommend, I mean, just go to Amazon. If you go to Amazon and you just look up the book, you can read the beginning of the book on there for free. So it's probably at least one of the stories is on there. So check it out. I hope you do. If not, you can visit me on my website, www.normcowie.com. That's COWIE. And thank you for letting me tell you about my fears, and I hope you are well, and I hope I stay well as well. So anyway, thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye.